Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. We told you back on Wednesday of last week, as we got ready to enter the holiday weekend, that it was expected to be a very busy and successful recruiting weekend for LSU along the defensive line. And now that we can look back on the 4-day weekend, that in fact was the case. One commitment early on the 4th of July on Thursday, a couple of more coming the following day on the 5th, and all of this adding to Bo Davis's defensive line room as LSU tries to fortify that from a position of perceived weakness, we'll see, to a position of strength. You understand that to win at the highest level in college football, you must be elite on the defensive front. And LSU's got work to do to get there. Started on the 4th of July, Zion Williams, a 6'4", 330-pound defensive lineman from Lufkin, Texas, pledged to LSU, and we assumed that that was coming. Texas certainly in the mix, TCU in the mix, I think, based on proximity there. But Bo Davis and the staff at LSU continue to recruit him really hard, and they secured his commitment. Now we look at today, 4 days later, and Zion Williamson has been a significant mover over on On3's new recruiting rankings. Prior to the commitment, he was ranked outside the top 300 as a 3-star by On3. And today, with their new rankings coming out, he has moved all the way up to the number 7 defensive tackle in this class and the number 86 overall player in this class. That is a move of over 200 spots here for Zion Williams, who has that prototypical body for the interior of a defensive line. And obviously Bo Davis put a lot of resources and time into Zion Williams, and LSU gets that commitment. The next came from Brandon Brown, a 6'1", 290-pound defensive lineman from Melbourne, Florida. He was a 4-star who was committed to Texas and had been committed to Texas since December the 19th of last year, but decided, I'm going to open things up, and he ends up pledging to LSU over the weekend. And you look at Brandon Brown, that's a guy who moved into the On3 300 and is now a 4-star prospect by On3 in these new rankings. So both of those guys on paper, which doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, the staff understands what they're evaluating and what they're recruiting, but all we have to go on is the paper. And the paper said those guys were quality players with big-time offers, but didn't necessarily stack up with the top end of their class. As of today, you can look at those rankings and suggest, both guys very much do fit in on the top end of their class. And then the final commitment that LSU got over the weekend was from Damien Shanklin, a 6'5", 335-pound edge rusher from Indianapolis, the number 1 player in the state of Indiana. Ohio State was in the mix. Alabama was in the mix. LSU lands Damien Shanklin as an edge piece to this haul. So you've got Zion Williamson in the middle at 330 pounds. You got Brandon Brown, who you feel like will develop his way into the interior at just under 300 pounds right now. And then Damien Shanklin, a guy with great length, great range, and a frame to build on at 235 pounds. He would play on the outside when he gets to campus. And this is a continuation of Bo Davis molding this group into what he needs it to look like it looked like when he was in Tuscaloosa, like it turned into in his time in Austin, Texas. And you've got guys that are being churned into the NFL draft from Bo Davis's development over there. And, oh, by the way, they had some success on the field last year in Austin, Texas. So when you look at LSU in this 2025 class, you add Zion Williams, Brandon Brown, and Damien Shanklin to Jesse Harold, another 4-star edge from Tampa, and you're talking about a slew of 4- and 5-star players that are going to come in and create an increase in talent at that position. You look at the entirety of the class, and there was a lot of movement nationally, not just at LSU, over the last 4 days. When we last left you, LSU was number 3 on 3. They're now number 5, backed up 2 spots, incidentally. And 247, they were number 10. They've moved up to number 6. And Rivals, they were number 14. They've moved up to number 10. And then you've got ESPN, which had them at number 9 when we last left you and has not updated that. But I think what's most interesting is I start to look at what the analysts and those who evaluate these classes look at. One of the things that stood out to me is LSU's got the number 1 average star rank on Rival of all the classes in the country. So LSU doesn't have 23 commitments like a couple of teams towards the top, but when you look at the average star ranking per player, LSU's is the best in the nation. And then you start to look at blue chip rate on 3, which measures how many are 4 and 5 star players, and LSU's is the best in the nation in that regard as well. So you're not talking about a class that has the depth in terms of just pure numbers that other classes have, but you're talking about a class that man for man is full of really, really, really good players. So I'll just give you, for example, Ohio State's number 1. They've got 23 commitments to LSU's 15. Bama's number 2. They've got 20 commitments to LSU's 15. Georgia is at number 3. They've got 18 commitments. Oregon is number 4. They've got 15 commitments right there with LSU. And you look at the score rating that are given to the players between Oregon and LSU, and it's very, 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 very similar to the type of players that you're bringing in. It's interesting because we know that Brian Kelly wants to sign a ton of high school players. I think there are going to be some signing classes in the Power 4 that only bring in 17, 18 guys because, hey, we're going to go get 36 transfers. And we know that Brian Kelly doesn't want to go get 36 transfers. So the inclination, what I infer from what Brian Kelly has been saying and looking at the numbers is, yes, LSU has a star-studded class, has a class that has elite-level players compared to the rest, but he wants more. He wants to go get more. I would anticipate that Brian Kelly would like to sign more than 25 players from high school every year. That's just my guess. You're going to have attrition. You're going to have guys leave into the transfer portal. You're going to have guys leave early for the NFL draft. That's inevitable. And so you can sign as many as you want as long as you only have 85 scholarships on the roster. Gone are the days where 25 is where you had to stop. So as I look at LSU, it's great that the level of player they continue to bring in is so high, but you feel like they're going to want to go get more and more and more. And there are some guys that we're going to talk about that are coming up here with commitment dates in the near future. It feels like, and this is not based on my conversations with high school players, this is certainly based on the reporting from Shea Dixon and Sonny Shipp and all the guys that cover recruiting day in, day out. It feels like a lot of high-end players are going to have their names come off the board and commit prior to their season starting. At that point, you don't need to take your visits because you're playing games on Friday nights, and you're going to sign on the dotted line right there in December, and everything's just kind of expedited a little bit more. There was a time where December was a huge visit month. It's no longer. December's sign on the dotted line and get ready to move month, an early enroll month. Like that's what now December has become. So it expedites things where it's not as much, visits and commitments during the fall. That stuff takes place toward the end of the summer. The camps are kind of in the rearview mirror, both from a national perspective and from a team perspective. You're talking about free time where some of these high school players have time to move on and look at other options, and then they try to settle things in here pretty quickly. And so I think that you're going to see LSU add to these numbers in fairly short order. And the question is, like, who is that player that LSU is going to look for next? We'll talk to some guys this week as far as recruiting goes, but 3 big ones that LSU adds over the weekend: Brandon Brown, Zion Williams, and Damien Shanklin. You add them to Jesse Harold, a really, really strong defensive line pull for LSU, and Coach Bo Davis. That class trending towards the top 5 in all of the on all of the services. It is actually in the top 5 on 3, and there's no real sign of things slowing down. So Brian Kelly and his staff, he's put together a really good group of recruiters, and it appears things are going very, very well from that point of view. So wanted to get to some of that here as we crank things up on a Monday week. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.